Before markets open, a different report arrives. The one the public never sees. The one the public never sees. A team you've never heard of is watching. Threats are tracked before they ever happen. In this shadow world, information flows through secure, invisible channels. Three briefings, two covert meetings, one decision that moves a market. One decision that moves a market, secured, encrypted, invisible. Three briefings, two covert meetings, one decision that moves a market. What would you pay to see the crisis before it happens? Top CEOs pay millions. Top CEOs pay millions for this level of predictive intelligence. This isn't just a conspiracy theory, it is a cold, hard reality of power. It's a billion-dollar intelligence industry, global, silent, lethal, across the ocean, past the city, until the continent fills the frame. Some intelligence can't be downloaded, it has to be gathered on the ground. Every decision is loaded with intelligence. Red zones, threat levels, and probabilities shift. Before the public even knows, the strategy is set. Intelligence is the silent foundation of every move. Every decision is loaded with intelligence. Intelligence that matters. Power stays protected. Intelligence is the silent foundation of every move. One disrupted route can cost millions. Intelligence infrastructure watches every single shipment moving across the globe. Every container is sealed, every route is tracked by hidden intelligence networks. Cyber attacks aren't random, they're funded, planned, and constant. They're funded, planned, and constant. In the digital war, there are no borders. Smart CEOs know before the crowd arrives. They track the shift before it becomes a storm. Smart CEOs know before the crowd arrives. They track the shift in sentiment before it becomes a storm. Every brand is one headline away from collapse. In this world, the truth is whatever the data says it is. Some intelligence can't be downloaded. It has to be gathered on the ground through secure uplinks and invisible nodes. Intelligence isn't always data. Often it's gathered on the ground, in the silence. Deals are built on information others don't have, hand-delivered and secured. That's the edge money buys. Deals are built on information others don't have. Regulations can destroy companies overnight. Intelligence sees the law before it's even written, monitoring every movement. In these halls of power, the silence is where the real decisions are made. Intelligence sees the law before it's even written, watching the shift in the dark. Markets reward those who know first. The rush of data is the pulse of power. Not those who guess, markets reward those who know first. In the war rooms of the elite, every threat is connected, every risk weighed. Markets reward those who know first, not those who guess. One click moves billions. Modern intelligence networks track people across every border and city street. Because people move markets, modern intelligence tracks everyone. Intelligence tracks people because people move markets. Connections are the core. No one is invisible. No one is untracked. The system never stops watching. One blocked shipping lane can cost millions weekly. Prediction is everything. Prediction is everything. In this world, knowledge is the only shield. Even at celebrations, the system never stops. Power is a constant performance. Power stays protected by the information only the elite possess, even in celebration. Courtrooms are the final battlefields, but preparation decides the verdict long before. Courtrooms are battlefields. Preparation decides the verdict long before the trial. Preparation decides the verdict. Intelligence is the only edge. Preparation decides the verdict. Intelligence is the only edge that matters. One political decision can erase billions. Intelligence is the early warning. One political decision can erase billions. Intelligence is the early warning. One political decision can erase billions. Intelligence is the early warning. Every asset is a target. Prediction is the only defense. Before leaders talk, the room is secured by teams scanning for any intrusion, because someone is always listening. In the silence, information flows. Before the crowd arrives, the perimeter is secured. The system never stops. The most powerful intelligence leaves no trace. Know everything, preserve nothing. Know everything, preserve nothing. The most powerful intelligence leaves no trace. Know everything, preserve nothing. Every morning before the markets open, a different kind of report lands. Not the financial one, not the PR one, the one the public never sees. This is the world of private intelligence. Somewhere right now, a team you've never heard of is watching. Watching rivals, watching governments, watching threats that haven't happened yet. They work for the most powerful CEOs alive, and they answer to no one else. These men run trillion-dollar empires. They have armies of lawyers, lobbyists, and PR teams. But underneath all of it, they keep a different kind of army, one trained to see what no one else can. What would you pay to know what your rivals are planning? What would you pay to see the crisis before it happens? The world's top CEOs already know the answer. Millions every year without hesitation. This is not conspiracy, this is industry. A billion-dollar shadow economy built on one thing: information before anyone else has it. Tonight, we go inside, and nothing will look the same. Davos, the Forum, the G20, these gatherings look like policy meetings. But behind closed doors, intelligence flows faster than champagne, and the best-informed man in the room always wins. This is where the real power moves. His day started in London, ends in Singapore. In between, 3 briefings, 2 covert meetings, and 1 decision that will move a market. This is what power actually looks like. Every decision a top CEO makes is preloaded with intelligence. Before the board meeting, before the press conference, before the public even knows there's a decision to make, that advantage costs millions, it's worth billions. Supply chains are the arteries of a trillion-dollar empire. One disruption, one compromised route can cost hundreds of millions. Private intelligence watches every vessel, every port, every partner, because the CEO who knows first survives. Cyber threats aren't just criminal, they're state-sponsored. Rivals pay hackers, governments fund intrusion teams. And the CEO of a tech titan wakes up knowing this every single morning, which is why private cyber intelligence is now non-negotiable. Every brand is one bad headline away from a stock crash. Private intelligence monitors the narrative before it becomes news. By the time protesters are outside, the CEO already knew they were coming. 3 days ago, intelligence is the ultimate shield. Who is your competitor meeting with? Who is your regulator close to? Who inside your own company is being approached? Private intelligence doesn't just watch the world. It watches the room you're in and the hands you shake. Not all intelligence is gathered from screens. Some of it requires a human on the ground, in a city you've never heard of, speaking a language no one in the boardroom speaks. This is the expensive part. This is the part that works. Information at 40,000 feet. By the time this jet lands, decisions have already been made. Deals structured around intelligence others don't have. This is the edge money buys, a clear horizon while others fly blind. Governments are the ultimate wild card. Regulations can destroy a company overnight, or make it untouchable. Private intelligence tracks legislative wins before they become law, because forewarned is a $10 billion advantage. Knowledge is the first line of defense. Some deals are never done in offices. They happen in transit, moving targets that intelligence must keep pace with. What was agreed in this car will move markets. And only 2 people alive know it yet. The rest of the world is just noise. The market is a battlefield where information is the only weapon. Those with private intelligence don't guess. They don't hope. They don't speculate. They know. And they move accordingly. Precision is the currency of power. Capital flows from sovereign wealth funds can reshape entire industries. Private intelligence tracks where the money is going before the announcement. The CEO who knows about a $50 billion fund movement 72 hours early doesn't need luck. They just need the right intelligence firm. The future is bought in advance. Modern private intelligence doesn't just track companies, it tracks people. The right people, the key people, the ones who make decisions. Know who they talk to, and you know what they'll decide. The human network is the ultimate map. Every connection is a signal. A single blocked shipping lane can cost a CEO's company $200 million a week. Private intelligence monitors geopolitical flashpoints 24 hours a day, not to report what happened, to predict what's coming. Days, sometimes weeks, ahead of the breaking news, we see the storm before the rain. Even at the gala, even at the award, the intelligence never stops. Every room is an environment, every conversation is data. The CEO on stage is also the CEO being protected by a system invisible to everyone else. Power never rests. The next product war is already being fought, you just can't see it. Private intelligence tracks R&D pipelines, patent filings, and talent movements. Knowing what your rival will release in 18 months gives you 18 months to respond. That's not cheating, that's survival. In the lab, information is the catalyst. The most important conversations never happen in boardrooms. They happen here, in rooms without ears, or so they think. Private intelligence has learned that every room has ears. You just need the right ones. Silence is just a different frequency. Litigation is another battlefield, and intelligence changes the outcome. Before a deposition begins, private researchers have already mapped the opposition's case. Every weakness, every inconsistency, every leverage point. Justice may be blind, but private intelligence is not. It sees the verdict before the judge. A foreign government just changed policy. Markets haven't reacted. But in one executive floor, they're already moving. Not because they're lucky, because their intelligence firm called it 48 hours ago. That's the difference between billions made and billions lost. Timing is everything. Energy is the most geopolitically exposed sector on Earth. One regime change, one pipeline decision, one sanctions package, and billions evaporate. Private intelligence is the early warning system that keeps the lights on, financially. When the ground shifts, we already have the map. Survival is a strategy. Not every partner is what they appear to be. Some are fronts. Some have hidden ties to governments, some are rivals in disguise. Private intelligence unmasks them before the contract is signed. The cost of one bad partner is always higher than the cost of the intelligence. Every international trip begins with an intelligence package. Security threat level, local power structure, who to trust, who to avoid, whose hand you shake, and whose you don't. The CEO who travels without intelligence is the CEO who gets played. Don't be the visitor, be the player. In pharma, the race to market is worth tens of billions. Being second costs everything. Private intelligence tracks competitor trials, regulatory calendars, and lobbying moves. The CEO who knows the FDA's likely timeline isn't guessing. They've invested in knowing. In the lab, every second is $1 billion. Before the conversation happens, the room must be secured. Because where top executives meet, others listen. Competitive intelligence isn't only about gathering, it's about protecting what you know. Trust but verify, and then verify again. Safety is the first condition of business. Who controls the land is not always who owns it. In emerging markets, the difference between law and power can cost billions. Private intelligence maps real power, not just legal ownership. Because mineral rights are worthless if the wrong people are in control. Reality is the ultimate asset. Even the press is a battleground. Who asks the question matters as much as the question. Private intelligence profiles the journalists, their agendas, their sources, their angles. The CEO who knows what question is coming isn't nervous. They're ready. Control the narrative and you control the future. The lens is just a different kind of scope. Intelligence doesn't just protect, it identifies opportunity. A rival weakened, a market opening, a regulatory window. The CEOs who understand this don't just survive crises, they manufacture advantages. That's what separates the top 5 from everyone else. The view from the top is clearer with the right tools. The most powerful intelligence leaves no trace, no memo, no record, no email, because what was known in this room was never meant to be known anywhere else. That's the final rule of private intelligence. Know everything, preserve nothing. The ghost in the machine is the most efficient. Silence is the ultimate security. Every night in every financial capital on Earth, the same ritual plays out. The brief is read, the decisions are made. The world turns on intelligence most people never see. And we've only just begun. The shadows are just getting deeper. Welcome to the other side. Not the side you see in the headlines, the side that writes them. 5 of the world's most powerful CEOs have built intelligence architectures that rival small governments. Let's go inside the world of private intelligence architectures. The best private intelligence firms hire from the best intelligence agencies. Tradecraft. Former spies, retired generals, ex-diplomats who still have the contacts. They bring the networks, the tradecraft, the instinct, and they sell it to the highest corporate bidders. The engagement starts with a retainer. 5 million, 10 million. Some firms command 20. Annually, retainers command $20 million annually. And there's always a waiting list. The most valuable intelligence often comes from rooms where decisions haven't been finalized. Before the vote, before the announcement, before the draft is published. Private intelligence firms with diplomatic reach operate in those rooms, and their clients know outcomes before the world does. Modern intelligence isn't just human, it's machine. Millions of data points, scraped, analyzed, scored, and ranked. The AI finds patterns no human could see at speed. The human interprets what those patterns mean for the CEO's decision tomorrow. Supply chain intelligence is no longer optional, it's existential. One forced mine closure in a conflict zone can halt production globally. Private intelligence maps the vulnerabilities and alternative routes before the crisis forces the question. The CEO in that SUV isn't reacting, they're already rerouting. Asia is the most complex intelligence environment on Earth. 16 countries, dozens of languages, ancient rivalries behind modern deal structures. The CEO who enters without intelligence enters blind, and blind deals in Asia cost empires. Sanctions regimes change without warning. Sanctions regimes change without warning. What was a legal business partner last month can make you a violator today. Private intelligence tracks the lists, the back channels, and the political winds that drive them. Ignorance is not a legal defense. Intelligence is. For some CEOs, intelligence is not just professional, it's personal. Active threats, stalkers, extortion attempts, kidnap for ransom exposure abroad. Private intelligence protects not just the empire, it protects the person. Because the most valuable asset of a trillion-dollar company is the CEO who leads it. Africa is the frontier of global corporate intelligence. A billion-dollar opportunity wrapped in complex governance, tribal dynamics, and infrastructure risk. Private intelligence maps the vulnerabilities and alternative routes before the crisis forces the question. The one who walks in prepared wins the continent. In Latin America, the formal economy and the real economy are 2 different things. Understanding the difference requires eyes on the ground. The question is never, is there risk? It's who benefits from the risk and why. The question is never, is there risk? It's who benefits from the risk. India is not one market, it's 28 states with 28 power structures. Private intelligence maps the real decision makers, not just the official ones. A project approved in Delhi can be blocked in a state capital for reasons no policy brief will explain. Local intelligence solves local problems before they become national headlines. The best intelligence operations run like intelligence agencies, soaring above the noise. Regular briefings, threat updates, escalation protocols. The difference is the client is a CEO, not a president. And the stakes in financial terms can be even higher than national security. Intelligence isn't just for the C-suite. It trickles into every division where strategic decisions live. The portfolio manager who gets the geopolitical call right has access to a different kind of research. One that isn't published and never will be, one single bullet point. The most damaging press doesn't come from nowhere. It's built from sources. Private intelligence can identify when a reporter is building a story, sometimes before they have it. Not to suppress, but to prepare. Because no CEO should read about a crisis before their team has. Because no CEO should read about a crisis in the morning paper before their legal team has. Defense contracts are worth hundreds of billions. The intelligence around winning them and protecting them is its own industry. Understanding who advises the decision maker matters more than the technical spec sheet. The company with better intelligence wins the contract, not always the company with better technology. Gulf sovereign wealth moves in a different universe. Trust is tribal. Relationships precede everything. Trust is tribal. Relationships precede everything. Private intelligence maps who knows who, so the CEO walks into the meeting already known. In this world, a cold call is an insult. An intelligence-prepared introduction is an advantage. A pipeline crossing 4 countries is 4 times as exposed as one that doesn't. Private intelligence monitors every meter, not just the physical infrastructure, but the political infrastructure that protects it. One diplomatic rupture between transit states isn't just a foreign policy story. It's a revenue halt. And it was predictable. Every major development is a political project as much as a construction project. Who controls the zoning board matters, who protests, and why matters more. Private intelligence maps the approval pathway before the first foundation is poured. Private intelligence maps the approval pathway before the first foundation is poured. Conferences are intelligence gold mines, where everyone is visible, where side conversations happen away from recorders. A trained intelligence analyst in a room learns more in 3 hours than a full OSINT sweep in a week. The CEO who sent them already has next quarter's competitive picture. Their rivals don't. The sun never sets on a world-class intelligence operation. While the CEO sleeps, analysts in 3 time zones are watching. By morning, the world has been processed, filtered, and delivered in 4 bullet points. That's the architecture. That's the machine behind the man. The most valuable thing in a semiconductor company isn't the chip, it's the design file. Private intelligence monitors for IP theft attempts, state-sponsored and commercial. A single exfiltrated process node design is worth decades of R&D. The CEO who funds intelligence isn't just protecting a product, they're protecting a technological generation. Private equity isn't just financial analysis, it's human intelligence. The CEO of a portfolio company who is covering up a loss. The board member with a competing interest. Private intelligence finds what auditors miss. Because auditors look backward, intelligence looks at what's happening right now. In e-commerce, the war is fought at millisecond speed. Private intelligence reverse engineers competitor pricing, positioning, and platform advantages. Not to copy, to leap ahead. The best CEOs don't benchmark, they intelligence design. Geopolitical risk used to be a background variable for corporations. Now it's a primary risk category. The CEO who doesn't have military-grade geopolitical intelligence is managing exposure they can't even see. Private intelligence makes the invisible visible. In fintech, regulation is the product's biggest variable. One new rule in one major economy can open or close a billion-dollar market. Private regulatory intelligence doesn't just track rules, it tracks the mindsets of the people writing them. That's a different kind of intelligence, and a much more valuable one. A drought in one region is a commodity crisis in another. A government export ban announced on a Tuesday can cost a consumer goods company hundreds of millions by Friday. Private commodity intelligence watches the weather, the politics, and the stockpiles simultaneously. And the CEO with that brief makes the procurement call 3 weeks early. A $3 billion arbitration isn't just a legal proceeding, it's an intelligence operation. Who sits across the table, what arguments they're responsive to, where their sympathies lie. Private intelligence doesn't contaminate justice. Private intelligence doesn't contaminate justice. It prepares for every human dimension that legal theory ignores. The AI race is the most watched technological competition in history, and private intelligence is tracking every move. Compute purchases, talent departures, government meetings. The CEO of an AI company who doesn't invest in competitive intelligence is playing chess blindfolded. Everyone else can see the board. Everyone else can see the board. Smart cities are trillion-dollar infrastructure contracts. They are also intelligence battlegrounds. They're also intelligence battlegrounds. Who advises the government? Who funds the competing bidder? What the technical requirements are actually designed to favor. Private intelligence maps all of it before the bid is published. The sea hides everything, and private intelligence brings it to the surface. Shadow fleets, AIS manipulation, sanctioned cargo reflagging. A CEO whose company moves product by sea without maritime intelligence is moving blind. These aren't rare anomalies, they happen every day. Global maritime intelligence. Elections change the rules. A new government brings new regulation, new taxation, new priorities. A new government brings new regulation, new taxation, new priorities. Private intelligence doesn't wait for the inauguration to model the impact. The CEO who funded the intelligence is already positioned. The one who didn't is still waiting for the final count. The most dangerous intelligence isn't about a competitor, it's about a technology. One that makes your industry irrelevant. Private intelligence tracks emerging tech at the research level before it becomes a product. The CEOs who fund this kind of intelligence are building for a world that doesn't exist yet. Some intelligence doesn't come from data, it comes from rooms like this. The doorman in civilian clothes recognizing members by face. the former intelligence chief at the far end of the table, the central banker nursing a Bordeaux. A practiced movement, barely visible, generations of tradecraft reduced to a dinner party gesture. They got invited because they understand how power actually works. The architecture of knowing is vast and growing. 5 executive faces, 5 different cities. Analysts in 3 time zones are watching. By morning, the world has been processed and filtered, all reading the same intelligence brief, all making the same calculation. This is not the future of corporate power. This is how it has always worked. You just never saw it before. The call came at 3:14 a.m. Not from the CFO, not from legal, from the highly specialized private intelligence unit. And by 3:17 a.m., the CEO was already ahead of it, before the 13D filing, before the press release. Private intelligence detected the accumulation. The target CEO had 8 days of preparation the attacker didn't know they were getting. 8 days is the difference between losing the company and keeping it. In energy, intelligence isn't just about money, it's about lives. Private intelligence tracking armed group movements has prevented kidnappings and hostage situations. The evacuation was authorized 6 hours before the threat materialized. That's not luck. That's intelligence working exactly as designed. Coordinated short attacks are not random market events, engineering crisis. They're engineered intelligence operations run against you. Crisis detected. Private intelligence can map the coordination, the accounts, the timing, the planted stories. The CEO who can prove it's coordinated doesn't panic. They respond with evidence, recovery. A coup in a country where you have $2 billion in assets is not background noise. Crisis onset. It's an existential event that private intelligence saw coming. The CEO had assets protected, personnel evacuated, and accounts moved before the first shots were fired. Because 85% probability is not a maybe, it's a plan. Defense intelligence is as important as offensive intelligence, masking internal tension. Knowing who wants your company and why before they move is everything. Private intelligence builds the defense playbook from real intelligence on the attacker's motivation, leverage, and timeline. And in M&A, the prepared defense wins, reviewing the strategy. Patent cliffs are visible from years away, if you're watching, town and plant. Private intelligence tracks every competitor's timeline in the FDA pipeline, monitoring. The CEO who learns about the generic entrant 14 months early can pivot. Strategic foresight. The one who learns in the earnings call cannot. Pipeline acceleration. Not every campaign against your company is organic. Some are manufactured, engineered, high stakes. Financed by competitors or hostile actors, private intelligence finds the fingerprints. Because responding to manufactured outrage as if it were real destroys you. Campaign analysis. Knowing the difference saves you. Responsibility and evidence. Financial crises don't start as crises, they start as intelligence signals. Incoming storm, early indicators, anomalous patterns, off-balance sheet exposures others aren't watching. Monitoring. The CEO who had private intelligence on the 2008 signals didn't lose everything. Risk model mapping. Some of them made everything, because they knew first. Opportunity found. One geopolitical event in the Taiwan Strait doesn't just affect policy. Geopolitical tension, Fab complex. It affects every device on Earth. Geopolitical risk modeling. The CEO who has private intelligence on escalation probability isn't just prepared for a headline. Analysis. They've already built the world that comes after it. Strategic continuity. The most sophisticated cyber threats don't come from criminals. They come from governments. Hostile nation infrastructure. State-sponsored actors with unlimited resources and political objectives. Private intelligence identifies them, names them, maps their methods. So when the CEO asks, who did this? There's an answer. Identification. The threat is identified. The response authorized. Strategic defense. Climate is the new geopolitics. Rising seas, failing crops, collapsing infrastructure, crisis. All of it affects corporate operations. Private intelligence models the risk with a precision no public report provides. Because the CEO doesn't just need to know what's happening, they need to know what it costs them. Risk analysis. A $500 million mitigation program beginning to take shape. Strategy implementation. The most consequential intelligence a board ever receives isn't about the external world. Transition day, establishing scale. It's about the person sitting in the CEO chair. Succession intelligence maps board dynamics and external pressure. Because the wrong person in that chair doesn't just lose one deal, they lose the company. Strategic scoring. The weight of the decision occupying the room. Succession. The threat is not always outside the walls. The most dangerous intelligence leak began from the inside. Threat detection. Private intelligence monitors for insider threats, not to surveil, but to protect. Behavioral scoring. The CEO who acts on this intelligence early doesn't just protect information, they protect everyone. Security. Protecting the organization from the one who's already compromised it. Measured precision. Decisions. A proactive recall costs hundreds of millions. A forced recall costs billions. Risk assessment. Private intelligence caught the defect signal 2 weeks before it would have made national news. Narrative mapping. The CEO who recalled voluntarily looked decisive. The brand was saved. Crisis modeling. Data points. The product was saved, the brand was saved, intelligence first, decisive authorization, brand protection, action. Trade negotiations affect trillions in corporate exposure. Private intelligence is in the room. Strategic arrival. Understanding where the other delegation will move before they move there is everything. Intelligence operation, positions. The most valuable position intelligence there is. The CEO who funded it shaped the outcome. Concession points. The private sector's invisible hand in the negotiating room. Tactical superiority, understanding moves. The most painful intelligence lessons come after the crisis. Not because it didn't exist, crisis onset, chaos, but because it wasn't acted on. The best CEOs build cultures that listen, post-incident review, data mapping. Intelligence ignored is the most expensive failure of all. No excuses accepted. Process failure. The overhaul beginning immediately. A hard-learned lesson, decision made. Focus leadership, action. A border closure you didn't see coming as a supply chain catastrophe. Geopolitical friction, bottleneck. Private intelligence watches every major trade artery. Policy, tensions, backlogs, compliance. The CEO who rerouted early paid a little more. The one who didn't paid everything. Delay risk. Rerouting 300 million based on intelligence. Savings visible on screen. Strategic decision, advantage. In democracy, the CEO cannot choose the winner, but they can be prepared. Political landscape, energy. Private intelligence models all scenarios before election night. Probability weights, analysis. So that by morning, whatever the result, the CEO is already positioned. Impact mapping. Preparing the world that comes after the vote, ready for anything, strategic positioning, finalization. Regulatory investigations don't always announce their full scope. Private intelligence maps it. Office machines. Mapping the regulator's strategy through case history and personnel analysis. 11-day window. Intelligence response. The CEO who knows the investigation is wider than disclosed has 11 days to move first. Window. Going first costs less than being caught going last. Decision made. Emergency counsel. Leadership action. Someone is positioning against your stock. Not a random short. A targeted, coordinated position. Night volatility aerial. Private intelligence detects the unusual option activity before it moves the price and gives the CFO time to understand. Room. Assets protected, staff safe. The window used because intelligence got there first. 72 hours of advantage, escalation brief. Mobilizing the defense before the move is public. Preparedness. CFO receiving the critical market alert intelligence. Action. Public announcements are the minimum. The reality is always bigger or smaller than the press release. Construction cranes. Private intelligence reads satellite imagery, permit filings, and hiring patterns. 11 months early. Monitoring. The CEO who sees it first responds to a real threat that their rivals still don't know exists. Ground-level detection, nodes. A decision made 11 months ahead of the curve. Competitive advantage. CEO reviewing the capacity expansion brief. Pivot. A bank's greatest exposure is what it doesn't know about who it does business with. Beneficial ownership mapping, headquarters, finding the sanctioned owner before the regulators did. A $50 million fine became a proactive disclosure. Risk center interior. Based on intelligence from canal authorities, satellite data, and maritime sources no public tool had access to. Tracking center. Proactive disclosure driven by superior intelligence. Safeguarding the institution. CEO and compliance meeting session. Your competitor's failure is your opportunity, not to celebrate, to execute. Scenario response plans ready. Aerial shot. While the competitor celebrates, their rival is already drafting the counter-narrative. Response mapping. Monitoring room. The day after the launch is the most important day in the battle. Prepared for the counter move. Launch intelligence updates. Executing the counter strategy before the applause stops. Tactical superiority. Monitoring. The CEO who had the scenario plans ready went from standing still to full launch in 24 hours. Responsibility, monitoring room. This kind of responsiveness doesn't come from instinct, it comes from intelligence. Launching into the void, failure brief. When governments fall, companies caught unprepared lose everything. 72-hour window, asset protection, protest escalation tracking. One geopolitical event in the Taiwan Strait doesn't just affect policy, geopolitical tension, fab complex, tracking aerial. When governments fall, companies caught unprepared lose everything. 72-hour window, asset protection, protest escalation tracking. The CEO was watching private intelligence that was watching the people who decide what the news becomes. Monitoring center, assets protected, staff safe, the window used because intelligence got there first. 72 hours of advantage, escalation brief. Executing the plan before the news breaks. Intelligence as a safeguard. CEO and staff in emergency asset protection briefing. Counterfeit drugs don't just kill patients, they destroy brands. Supply chain integrity, brand equity, night operations. Responding to a ghost competitor. Advantage through invisibility. Strategic decision. Ground-level data. Advantage. Based on intelligence from canal authorities, satellite data, and maritime sources, no public tool had access to. Tracking center. One decision saved $8 million, calmness in the storm, logistics victory, action taken. The CEO who sees it first responds to a real threat that their rivals still don't know exists. Ground-level detection, distribution. Based on intelligence from canal authorities, satellite data, and maritime sources, no public tool had access to. Satellite link. The God view that only private intelligence can provide. Everything connected, everything visible, the edge of everything. God view. Watching the watchers. Information as the ultimate weapon. Information control. Tactical decision. The CEO who had private intelligence on the 2008 signals didn't lose everything. Risk model mapping. The most consequential intelligence a board ever receives isn't about the external world. Transition day. Establishing scale. The private sector's invisible hand in the negotiating room. Tactical superiority. Understanding moves. Private intelligence models all scenarios before election night, probability weights, forecasting, a controlled operation, letting the attacker believe they'd succeeded while feeding them false data. Counterintelligence, total control. Intelligence-led community engagement, resolving the siege, a path forward, resolution, strategic engagement. Private intelligence maps the counterfeit networks, because public enforcement often can't. Enforcement, integrity, safeguarding. A border closure you didn't see coming is a supply chain catastrophe, geopolitical friction, bottleneck. The overhaul beginning immediately, a hard-learned lesson, decision made, focused leadership, action. One geopolitical event in the Taiwan Strait doesn't just affect policy, geopolitical tension, fab complex. The CEO who knows the investigation is wider than disclosed has 11 days to move first. Window for cooperation, strategy. But because it wasn't acted on, the best CEOs build cultures that listen. Post-incident review, data mapping, protecting the organization from the one who's already compromised it, measured precision, decisions. Private intelligence modeled the forced selling timeline with enough precision to deploy at the bottom. Opportunity mapping, precision. The CEO who cuts corners on methods doesn't just face a legal risk, they face a mirror. Ethical evaluation, integrity, mirror. Responding to a ghost competitor. Advantage through invisibility. Strategic decision, ground-level data, advantage. The product was saved, the brand was saved, intelligence first. Decisive authorization, brand protection, action. Climate is the new geopolitics. Rising seas, failing crops, collapsing infrastructure. Crisis. The threat is not always outside the walls. The most dangerous intelligence leak began from the inside. Threat detection. The margin between catastrophe and calculated response is always the same distance. Preparation, montage of survival. In the Suez moment, everyone panicked. One CEO didn't, because their intelligence brief said hold, logistical crisis. The CEO who rerouted early paid a little more. The one who didn't paid everything. Logistical alerts, data analysis. Preparing the world that comes after the vote. Ready for anything. Strategic positioning. Finalization. Private intelligence watches every major trade artery. Policy, tensions, backlogs. Global monitoring, scale. In democracy, the CEO cannot choose the winner, but they can be prepared. Political landscape, energy. mapping the regulator's strategy through case history and personnel analysis. 11-day window, intelligence response. The CEO who had intelligence knew everything. The attacker knew nothing real. Total information control. Attribution. Rerouting $300 million based on intelligence. Savings visible on screen. Strategic decision advantage. Going first costs less than being caught. Going last. Decision made. Emergency counsel. Leadership action. 5 CEOs. $5 trillion empires. One invisible system. $5 trillion empires. One invisible system connecting them all. Not to each other, but to the same unspoken advantage. The invisible crown that makes power permanent. Once a year, in a location no one outside this room will ever name, they meet. Not to collude, not to compete, to benchmark the one asset they all value equally. How good is your intelligence? This is not a conspiracy. It's peer review at the top of human power. The intelligence industry needs a next generation, and the best firms are building it from scratch. Training analysts who have never worked for a government, but operate at government level. This is the pipeline that will run private intelligence for the next 30 years. The revolving door between government intelligence and corporate intelligence spins constantly. Former NSC, former CIA, former GCHQ, former Mossad. They don't become consultants. They become private intelligence assets, carrying networks, clearances, and contextual understanding that cannot be bought any other way. The next frontier of private intelligence is not human, it's machine augmented. AI trained on decades of geopolitical signals, corporate outcomes, and market reactions. A model that sees the pattern before the human analyst does. And the CEO who has it first leads the next generation of competitive advantage. Some of the most valuable intelligence is still delivered the old way. Not digitally, not by phone, in a cafe on a street, in an envelope that looks like nothing, because the oldest tradecraft is still secure. The oldest tradecraft is still the most secure way to pass information. The most important meeting of the quarter happened at a sports event. 80,000 people in the building, 3 of them who mattered. Private intelligence arranges these encounters with the precision of a diplomatic protocol office. Visibility without exposure, connection without documentation, disperse into the crowd. Preparation is performance, the CEO who appears effortlessly at ease. The CEO who appears effortlessly at ease in the meeting spent 3 hours below deck being briefed on every dimension of the person approaching. And confidence closes billion-dollar deals. The most valuable networks are the ones you cannot join. The most valuable networks are the ones you cannot join. They accept, they don't advertise. And what moves around that table moves markets. The dynamic of mentor and disciple in a world where the mentor has seen everything. Private intelligence opens the door. Excellence keeps you in the room. Intelligence has evolved beyond geopolitics. It now maps the mind. Understanding how a decision maker responds under pressure. Cognitive shortcuts. Understanding what values they weight highest. The cutting edge of intelligence. That's not espionage. That's the cutting edge of private intelligence today. The sky is now a corporate intelligence asset. Commercial satellites providing imagery that rivals military capability of 15 years ago. Any executive can see what was once only visible to governments. The CEO who subscribes sees the world differently, literally, from above. The courtroom is the last battleground, and it's won before the first witness is sworn in. Private intelligence transforms litigation from a legal proceeding into an information advantage. The CEO who funded the intelligence didn't win in court. They won in the briefing room months earlier. The ocean conceals billions in illicit cargo every year. Tools that see through the dark. AIS manipulation, dark vessel tracking, cargo discrepancy analysis, marine intelligence. The financial institution avoided a $200 million sanctions fine. Compliance team briefed, regulator notified, record clean, decision made. Success creates visibility. Visibility creates threat, predictable, high-value targets. Kidnapping, extortion, character destruction. Private intelligence protects the life. Private intelligence protects not just the company, it protects the life that built it. The intelligence system is invisible around them. Protection absolute in a park. The boldest investments happen where others fear to go, understanding what others don't. Private intelligence maps post-conflict zones, real power structures, fund flows, reconstruction investment brief, corruption vectors, optimal entry windows. The CEO who invests with intelligence wins a generation, loses everything without it. Labor disputes are intelligence operations as much as labor relations, union leaders. Who leads the union? What they actually want? Back-channel resolution is possible. The CEO didn't just survive the strike. Back to full operations in 8 days. Intelligence found the door that neither side publicly admitted existed. Operation complete. Currency crises destroy corporate balance sheets in hours, sudden without intelligence. Look like opportunity to those with it. Central bank policy intelligence. Warning. Reduce local currency exposure immediately. The CFO saved $180 million. The one who waited for certainty lost $90 million. Hedge positions executed. In a crisis, 72 hours of advance intelligence is the difference. Managing. The CEO who disclosed proactively looked like a leader. Proactive accountability. The story designed to destroy them became a story about accountability. Information agency. Intelligence doesn't just provide information, it provides agency in a crisis. Every room is an intelligence operation. Diplomatic reception agendas executed. The executive who walks into a diplomatic reception with a briefed agenda. Execution. 4 relationships move forward in 90 minutes. Exactly where to stand. Connection. Handshakes, intelligence prepared. Outcomes produced in 90 minutes. Purposeful. 5 cities, 5 CEOs. One advantage, they don't share it, they don't broadcast. They simply use it every morning before the world is awake. Architectural philosophy. To make decisions that shape what happens when the world wakes up. Invisible crown. This is the invisible crown, and it's real, glowing curvature of the earth, power. The very richest think in generations, not quarters, not decades. Generations, dynasty. Multi-generational wealth management review, 50-year risk horizons modeled, scenarios. Private intelligence for generational wealth maps, risks that don't exist yet, but will. The CEO, who is also a family steward, doesn't just run a company, protect a dynasty. The best acquisitions don't happen at auction, 18 months before anyone knows. Venture intelligence watches deep tech at the research level, strategic acquisition case. The CEO who moves early, like pays seed stage prices for Series C value, watch the future. Decisive leader initiates contact in a modern night office, moving early to acquire. Integration of geopolitical intelligence with market microstructure, peak hours, battleground. What it means for this trade in this market in the next 4 seconds. Context. Operating in a different market than everyone else. Not faster. They see more. Trade. Fund manager acts on integrated intelligence with precision execution. Dramatic. At the highest level, the line between corporate and government intelligence blurs. Formal recognition that the largest companies and governments need each other. Not illegal. Government-adjacent report drawing on legal channels only major corporations access. Brief. The CEO who sits at that table doesn't just have intelligence, they help make it. Exchange. Once a year, the intelligence community's most trusted private voices speak to power. Not governments, not generals, corporations understanding it better than anyone, office. Companies that move the world need to understand it. Risk hotspots, framework slide. World's most powerful CEOs listening and adjusting worldviews, high-stakes briefing. Alternative data is intelligence without the label. Satellite imagery of parking lots, credit card transaction patterns, app usage decay. Each data point is a signal. Combined, they paint a picture of reality before the earnings call reveals it. The CEO who reads this picture first doesn't predict the market. They move before it moves. The most dangerous intelligence is wrong intelligence delivered with confidence. The best private intelligence firms red team their own conclusions. Not to be humble, to be accurate. Because a CEO who acts on flawed intelligence at scale has been failed twice, by the events and by the analysts. This lecture happens once per year at 3 business schools on Earth. It's not on the curriculum, it's not graded, but the 30 students in the room will carry this lesson their entire careers. And when they reach the top, they will build the intelligence infrastructure, because they know it exists. The most valuable inheritance a departing CEO leaves is not the strategy, not the team, not the balance sheet, the system that sees what others don't, built over decades, passed like a crown. The best CEOs review their intelligence like a general reviews a campaign. What they knew, what they didn't, what they should have seen. The retrospective is not about blame, it's about calibration. Because next year they will need to be even better. That is the invisible crown, and it is what separates empire from ordinary. The first intelligence networks to transmit at quantum secure level will be invisible even to the most sophisticated state actors. And the CEOs who fund this research will be the last people in the world who can keep a secret. At the end of the career, there is no memoir, no TED Talk, no podcast. Only the knowledge that the decisions that moved history were made with better information than anyone knew. That is enough. For the people who did this work, that has always been enough. Zoom out far enough, and what do you see? Not luck, not genius, not destiny. A world of decisions, trillions of them, all shaped by one factor above all others. Who knew more, when they knew it, and what they did with it? The world does not run on luck, it runs on information. The brief is closed, the decision is made. Somewhere, an analyst is already writing tomorrow's. The world's top 5 CEOs will read it before dawn. And the world, as always, will wake up not knowing why things happened the way they did. That is private intelligence. That is the invisible crown. And now, 5 empires, 5 intelligence systems, one world they see differently, not by birth, not by luck, not by talent alone, by the deliberate, disciplined, expensive, irreplaceable choice to know more. That is the invisible crown, and it is what separates empire from ordinary. The next arms race isn't nuclear, it isn't even AI, it's quantum. The first intelligence networks to transmit at quantum secure level will be invisible even to the most sophisticated state actors. Once a year, the intelligence community's most trusted private voices speak directly to power, not governments, not generals, corporations.